Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I think I beg your indulgence because I was very concerned about the misunderstanding that was very evident in the contribution of my distinguished colleague from Ecuador. And let me welcome our new colleague. It is very incorrect to make reference to a couple of CARICOM countries. I believe that my distinguished colleague from Guyana would have requested the floor to elaborate on a process. The process followed by CARICOM as it sought to contribute to the negotiation and agreement of a resolution on on Venezuela was very orderly. It began with our ambassadors in Washington speaking to this issue. Their recommendations came to the body of foreign ministers. I speak because I am currently chair of that body of foreign ministers. We would have been concerned that, as we often do with our involvement in foreign policy matters, we try to seek a unified position, and it was felt that that is what we should do. Without spending a lot of time talking about the process, it was deemed useful to have the contribution of our heads of state and heads of government. What was the output or the fruits of that process of deliberation is what is referred to as the CARICOM document, which went to the meeting in Washington, I believe it's on the 31st of May. I was unable to attend, and therefore I invited my colleague, I literally throwing him into the deep end, my distinguished colleague on my left from the Bahamas, to take the chair. And the inputs from that document would have fed into this. The notion of a few CARICOM states getting together is totally fallacious. As I said, we would have discussed this matter at a meeting of the foreign ministers in Barbados. Based on all that came out of that, we further discussed it at a video and teleconference subsequently, which then continued into the evening in a teleconference of heads. And all along the way, we have been feeding back and forth those inputs to Capitol and Washington. So what you see before us, as my distinguished colleague from Guyana said, it is not a process that should have taken anybody by surprise, certainly not CARICOM members, to make sure that we continued in that unified fashion. At 9:30 this morning, we convened, and if I could ask, we had a majority of foreign ministers present, or ministers of government in the absence of foreign ministers, and others with delegated authority. And we agreed and made a formal decision that, consistent with a process that was ongoing, where we had a and I made that point in my earlier contribution, a subcommittee of ambassadors speak on behalf of all the member states of CARICOM. We took the time to make a formal decision to endorse the continuation of that process. So I just want to make it absolutely clear, Mr. Chairman and colleagues, that in terms of the efforts of the member states of CARICOM, we would have gone through that, and we came to a document which certainly Barbados, and as recently as the beginning of this meeting, I would have followed the process that we followed and would have communicated with my ministry and onward to the Right Honourable Prime Minister of Barbados in terms of the statement. So I do not want it to go abroad, because I wouldn't want people to take a break under any misguided notion that somehow, somewhere, things have, in terms of the process used by CARICOM, was not transparent and consistent with the very principles of which we speak. I would say, however, that CARICOM is a collection of sovereign states, and members of those sovereign states can change their mind at any time about anything and act in ways that they see fit. But to suggest that something somehow did not sit well in terms of proper procedure from the perspective of the participation of CARICOM and from the perspective of the participation of the representative of my country, Barbados, as ambassador to Washington and to the OAS, I must say that would be fallacious and would certainly misrepresent the process that we very meticulously followed as member states of CARICOM. Thanks, Chairman.
Very good.